When you think of generation-defining, world-famous legendary rally cars, depending on what generation you come from, you'll often think of the Lancia 037 and Stratos, the Audi Quattro, the Ford Escort Mark I, the Peugeot 205, and of course, the Subaru Impreza WRX and the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution. This is no ordinary Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution, and I assume if you're watching this video and by the title you know exactly what this car is, and if you're a follower of the channel already you would have seen this on Instagram for the past year. This is my Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 6 TME, Tommi Makinen edition, one of 3,020 JDM GSR variants worldwide. There were 200 ADM variants and there were a whole host of other couple examples, but this is one of the GSR JDM imports, and it's one of less than probably 3,000 in the world now. Growing up and during my childhood here in the beautiful Adelaide Hills, I would go with my dad and brothers and watch the classic Adelaide Rally almost every year from the age of 5. Needless to say, an immense passion for rally developed from there, and as soon as I became of age to get onto the internet, I was looking up constantly of the classic early 2000s and late 1990s WRC series where Tommi Makinen, Juha Kanukin, Colin McRae, Richard Burns and all the other legends, Carlos Sainz, couldn't forget Carlos Sainz for you Toyota fans watching, they were just cutting it up and it was awesome. And it was the best period from motorsport. Some people like F1, some people like rally, some people like V8 supercars. For me, I really love rally and I had to have one of these, and it's always been one of my dream cars, and owning one is absolutely insane. So I want to talk about the pros and cons of owning one of these cars. What's it like to own a very limited run Japanese performance car that is 20 years old and modified? Well, come with me and today we're going to find out. So I've owned the Evo now for just over a year, which is quite monumental for me because I've never owned a car for over a year. So in that time, I have come to learn a lot about the car, a lot about what makes it great. And there aren't really many areas of the car that let it down, but I'll start with the pros of the car first because there are so many, but I've tried to compact it a little bit just for the sake of the video. So the first one is the most obvious one, and that's the way that it drives. The car drives exactly as you'd want a 90s, early 2000s rally legend to drive. It's fantastic to put through corners. It makes you a very, very confident driver, which potentially could also be a bad thing. But it really inspires confidence within you when you're driving, and it makes you feel great when you're just pushing it through corners and being able to throw it around. It's a really predictable car. I've got the back end out a few times, whether I've been trying to do it or not, and it's very, very easy to get back into line. The AYC, the active yaw control, really helps you flick back, plus it's got an aftermarket 1.5 way front LSD, which also helps out. It's just fantastic, and just even put your foot down around a corner, it's easy. So fun. The second pro of the car is one that comes with the way that it drives, and that's the sound. It just sounds phenomenal. It sounds absolutely amazing. The car comes equipped with a factory anti-lag system, a SAS anti-lag system, because of course this is a homologation car. They had to make a certain number of these to be able to race them in the WRC, which I'm sure if you're watching this video, you're already a bit aware of the history. So I won't bother you too much with that, as I already have done in the intro to this video. So the anti-lag system can be turned on at incremental percentages. I think in this car, I'm not exactly sure because I didn't get the car tuned. It was a previous owner that got it tuned. It was turned on about, I think, a third or 30% of the way to what it can be. So it still lets out some really nice, subtle little backfires, and you can control that with how far you feather the throttle, which is something that I've really enjoyed about this car. And one of the things I'm really going to miss is exactly how this car sounds when you're punting it around through the hills. But listen. car sounds phenomenal. The whoosh of the intake followed by a bang of the exhaust is addictive, and this is it's just great. And whoever has a car that's got anti-lag, or who's ever put some aftermarket little pops and bangs in with the tune is fantastic, and I'm sure you'll be understanding that feeling that you get when you do it. The third pro of this car is Rarity, and that comes with, these days, as we all know, with older Japanese cars, the Rarity comes with appreciation in value. So I bought this car a year ago, and since then it's skyrocketed. The value of these cars is skyrocketing, and it's like any 90s, even 80s really, any classic Japanese performance car now is going bonkers in price. It doesn't matter whether you're at the lower end in the Silvias or whether you're at the really high end in the GTRs, Supras, NSXs, whatever. They are all going for astronomical prices, and they only are increasing with the American market. And if you're an American viewer watching this video, you can't legally drive this car yet. You'll be able to legally get this in, I think, 2023 or maybe 2024 or 5, depending on the 25-year rule. I think it's about 2024 that you'll be able to get this car. They will be a very expensive car by the time that America can get them, but I think it's one of those cars that will be increasing in value, and it will be worth it as it's increasing in value. And the last pro to this car, to really sum up the car, is that it's just everything about the car and the attention that it attracts, everything about this car is positive. And you get so many people of all different ages coming up to you at car events and talking to you about the car. I've had so many different people be so just over the moon to see this car, because you don't really see many. There's only a few in the state that I live in South Australia, and then out of that few there's only a very select handful that actually come out to events. So it's great to be able to bring this out and to bring a smile onto people's faces and to talk to people. I've had owners of version 5 STIs, met up with an owner of a Pajero Evolution, which is also an incredibly rare car, and it really is so good to connect with the community in this car. And with the good, obviously, naturally comes the bad. And I found it really difficult to find things that I don't like about this car, because I absolutely adore this car and I really, really, really like it. It's such a great car to drive, but it does have its negative sides. Like everything, it's not perfect. It is a now 20-year-old Japanese performance car that is incredibly rare. So the first con with this car is its rarity, which is of course also a pro. But because it's so rare, I sometimes get a little bit iffy about driving it. I've never put it on a track. You're always thinking about future value, because this isn't a forever car for me. Not wanting to put too many kilometers on it, but still enjoying it. But there always is that thought at the back of your mind. Even now as I drive it, I'm just terrified of crashing it or someone hitting me or anything happening to the car. So that is at the back of your mind with any more expensive, rarer Japanese car now. Comes with it, and that's what you get. If you want to get into these cars, if you're not wanting to keep it forever, it probably will be something that you're constantly thinking about, which is reasonable, I think. The second con with this car as well, about being an older Japanese car and having 20-year-old Japanese build quality, is that things start to fade, things aren't as nice on the inside, and it can be on the outside too. The exterior condition of this car is pretty good, besides, there's bumps and scratches and little tiny things that happen with age, but for the majority it's an extremely clean car. It's on the inside of the majority of these older Japanese cars where things get a little bit average. So by now, 20 years on, living out in the Japanese sun, being in the Australian sun for 10 years since this was imported, it has got a few wear marks and wear items on it. And so the steering wheel, I can see the top of the steering wheel is a little bit faded. Thankfully got no dash cracks. That wasn't really a major problem with Mitsubishi, that was more a Nissan issue. So a lot of R32 GTRs you come across will have dash bubbles or dash cracks. Some of the plastics in here are a little bit faded. The molding around the edging of some of the plastics is a bit iffy. But for the most part, it's really nice. And you get usual gremlins you get with certain cars, like the door cards. I'm not sure if you can see that on screen, but the door cards I've had to rip off because they sag. I had new material ready to go on, but it's just something I haven't got around to. So the interior plastics are a bit average, but That's a really uniform thing across all older Japanese cars. There's nothing really, besides the door cards falling off and that sort of thing, there's nothing really that's too Evo specific, I would say, to this car and the cons of this car. Besides the fact that, again, this is sort of arguably a JDM used, market problem, but parts, like used parts, rarer optional parts like rally art gear is quite expensive. But again, as I said, that's the same across all these cars now. Whether it's Supras, Skylines, Silvias, WRXs, anything, all the used parts that you would get back at dealer options are all super overpriced and expensive, especially Nismo. And that's coming from me, who's a massive Nissan and Nismo fan. It's just way too crazy and it's overpriced. And if you're getting into this car and you want to kit it out with the old gear, then you have to expect to pay that premium. But again, it's one of those things that most people buying these older cars now get. And that's why there's not really much that I have to say about this car that's negative. It's been a great car. And I guess in summary, if you want one of these and if you're looking and watching this video for some advice, buy one, and buy one now before it's too late. It arguably, for some colors like red, is out of most people's budgets. Really, it's definitely was out of mine. I couldn't justify paying an extra 30 grand for this car just to have the red one, nor did I have an extra 30 grand to spend when I bought this car to get the red one. But yeah, if you want to get one of these cars, do it. They are amazing. They are one of the best driving cars you'll ever own, and I will stand by that and I will guarantee it. And if you don't like it, then I'll buy it off you. I'm kidding, no I won't. I won't buy it off you. But you will love this car. If you're watching this video and you need some advice, get it. Bottom line, buy it and do it now before it's too late. Thank you everybody for watching today. I hope you enjoyed it, watching me navigate the beautiful Adelaide hills on a pretty overcast day and talking about a car that I truly love and that I really enjoy and is a fantastic car. It's a really good car. So thank you very much everyone. Enjoy, and remember, if you haven't already, like the video, give us a comment, let me know your thoughts. If you've got any questions, ask me and I'll do my best to get back to you. And give us a subscribe if you haven't already to keep up to date with what's happening next, because we've got some exciting things coming up. Have a great one.